everyone. We're ready for our next talk, Hook, Line, and Sinker, a Liar for Hire's Ultimate Tackle Box, with Chris Silvers. Smile. Thank you. Dr. McCoy. This presentation is an exploration of the latest tools used in the art of social engineering. From information gathering to post-exploitation, participants will get to experience the thrill of the con from presenters who live it each day. The presentation seeks to prove that you don't have to be a sleazy salesman type personality to be successful at social engineering. You guys ready?
Was that it?
That's it. You said I could stop whenever, so this is all you get.
Hey, it's smokes. Okay. All right. So before we get started, Jamie, right? Jamie. Okay. Sorry, I have a terrible memory for names, but I've been working on it. What am I? I'm Chris, right? Yeah. So now that I have a wireless mic, before we really get started, I have to do trailers for sailormen. Inside joke for the speakers who were out at the bar last night. As Jamie said, I'm Chris Silvers, and this is Pat McCoy. Yes, the Pat McCoy, for those who were at DEF CON in Black Hat. We're in on the gag. Anyway, with all that, okay. So as Jamie said, we're going to talk about social engineering. I don't know who caught Jimmy's talk this morning just before us over there. He started talking about social engineering. The guy up here was talking about social engineering. Maybe even Moxie's talk, he mentioned social engineering.
Seems to be a popular topic these days.
Yeah, seems to be. In fact, I saw a story just yesterday. Let's see. Apparently there was some meeting a couple months ago in Washington, kind of hosted by RSA and another organization. They were getting together with some CEOs to talk about all this APT and how APT seems to, the front end of APT seems to start out with some type of social engineering attack vector. Given who signs our paychecks, we don't want to slam too much on APT, but I'm still trying to come up with a really good alternate definition for APT. So far, I'm working on apathetic people threat. Because it just seems like every time they label that APT, it turns out to be really just social engineering. So anyway, just as fate would have it, we built this presentation a little while ago, and it turns out it's pretty tough. How about that? So, and then one other thing I just wanted to mention, Jamie, is she still in the room? Good. So maybe I won't get in as much trouble for doing this, but I understand, like in the sponsor area, they have where people can go and talk to potential future employers, right? Well, I don't have a booth in there or anything, but if you are looking to be a security consultant and are interested, hit Pat or I up after the talk, all right? And I'll just kind of leave it at that, all right? We have free cookies. Yeah, so anyway, all right, so without further ado, I'm going to attempt to get this going here. Let's see.
No audio.
That's not working. Let's try.
No audio.
Hey, there we go. All right. Okay, hook, line, and sinker. Social engineering has changed in the last 20 years. It's changed in the last year. It's changed in the last month, really. No longer are we able to just pick out the social engineer. They're no longer the strangers with candy, right? That we grew up knowing, how to fear, right? Those are really like the only people that our parents told us to fear. They didn't tell us to fear, good-looking young man like Pat McCoy here, right? They didn't tell us all that. They didn't teach us any of that. In fact, they taught us the opposite. They taught us to help people who look like us. us and act like us and, you know, be helpful, be nice, right? So one big difference and big development in social engineering has been the tools involved. Because all of a sudden, you know, just like Nmap, you know, ZenMap, the front end, just like Metasploit, just like all these point-and-click tools, that's basically just opened up the audience and the user community of whatever technique it is you're doing. So in making it easier by advancing these tools, it just makes it where more people can do it, right? You don't have to be, just like the abstract says, you don't have to be a sleazy salesman type or some kind of, you know, professional magician or hypnotist to actually perform effective social engineering. Now, it doesn't hurt if you are, okay? Although sometimes I wonder. But if you're not, that's okay too, right? Just jump a little off the street. So the purpose of this talk is to go through some of those tools and give you kind of a splattering of those tools. Now, it's not meant to be totally comprehensive, and I'm sure we're forgetting all kinds of tools that are out there, but these are the ones that we use every day. So it's more tested, tried and true tools that are fairly easy to use, okay? I mean, I'm definitely not a programmer, and neither is Pat. And some of this stuff may seem a little technical. It's really not. It's really pretty easy to get into. So we kind of break the tools down into two sections: reconnaissance tools and exploitation tools. And when I say tools, I'm really kind of including techniques as well. Okay. So just kind of keep that in mind as we're going through, because some of these quote-unquote tools are really just websites, right? Just places to go. All right. So, okay, cool. It's good that you guys are sitting up front so I can hear you laugh. That's good. I like that positive feedback. My daughter found that for me, the Ninja Kitten there. Everybody knows that a company's website is usually like the #1 perfect place to go for information about a company, and some of it intentionally that they put out there, and some of it you wonder what they were thinking sometimes of the information they put out there. But in addition to that and the obvious Google searching and just doing all kind of nice fun stuff with Google, there are a few big sites that when I get a social engineering gig, this is like the first thing I do, okay? Once I go to their website, understand a little bit about their business, do a little bit of Googling, then I go out to Jigsaw, then I go to Spokio, I go to LinkedIn, I go to Facebook, right? By the way, is there anybody here who does not have a Facebook account? Seriously? Okay. And you're in the security business, right? And so do you look up information about your company on Facebook? Well, you really can't unless you have an account or you have access to someone who does, right? So I would recommend getting an account, by the way. And, you know, you not necessarily setting up your own account, but just get an account. Well, let's kind of leave it at that, I guess. So anyway, so the list goes on with a lot of stuff, and I'm gonna try to show you a quick little video here once I get it open, and it's just a little demonstration on how easy it can be to find out some information about people.
See, really, Chris just likes to embarrass our boss in public.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Okay, here we go. All right. It's building a font cache. I'm not sure what a font cache is, but it's building it. All right. You think so? Okay. So while this is building the font cache, whatever that means, I'll try to set this up a little bit. I have a pretty cool boss. even though he's very proud of the fact that he works for McAfee, okay, as you'll see. But the way everybody knows Foundstone is owned by McAfee, right? And okay, all right, so it's starting to play, and before it goes too far, let me see if I can pause it. Okay, there we go. All right, so he's very proud that he works for McAfee, but he's a real good sport. Okay, really nice guy. Anyway, so basically this example, it's kind of the whole eat your own dog food kind of stuff. He was gracious enough to let me just do a demonstration on, assuming he was a target. Okay, so assume that McAfee is our client, and I'm going to just hone in on him as an example of someone I might want to send a phishing email to. I might want to call them. The world's your oyster here. So like I said, first I go to is Jigsaw, and I just do a quick search for McAfee up there in the top, and there's a few McAfees there, but I happen to know that the McAfee office is located in Santa Clara, or the corporate office. And if you notice, there's like over 2,500 contacts on Jigsaw. Okay? Can y'all see that at all in the back? Okay, well, just trust me. Yeah, said the social engineer. Yeah. Okay, so, all right, so we go out to Jigsaw, and like I said, I do a quick search for McAfee, and notice that they're in Santa Clara. So keep that in mind, that they're in Santa Clara. All right, that the corporate office is in Santa Clara. Location is very important. All right, during this kind of stuff. So if we drill down to this McAfee in Santa Clara, it brings up information on them, and Jigsaw. It's free to get an account and all that stuff. But so you come up with a company directory, and the whole purpose here is like business contacts, right? And so it's kind of crowdsourced. So my boss's name is Dave Ackley, so I sorted the names alphabetically so I could find him kind of quick. But and so he's the director of technical operations, and that's pretty accurate, I guess. But notice. Notice here, you've got Director of Technical Operations. But look at the email. It says Dave Ackley at safeboot.com. Well, wait a minute, that's not McAfee.com. It's not even Foundstone, it's SafeBoot. SafeBoot was a company that was acquired by McAfee some time ago. And notice also his location, Naples, Florida, not Santa Clara. Well, what's the deal with that? Well, that seems kind of odd, right? I thought McAfee was in Santa Clara. Well, McAfee has offices all over the world, and Dave happens to work out of the Naples, Florida, right? So we flip over to LinkedIn, and we do a quick search, put in his name, Dave Ackley, current company McAfee, and there we go. Director, McAfee, Foundstone Professional Services, Fort Myers, Florida. All right, so we started in Santa Clara, then we went to Naples. Now we're looking at Fort Myers. Well, where does this guy live? Well, we're not sure yet, right? So we opened up his little public profile on LinkedIn. And by the way, none of the accounts that I'm using to log in are associated with Dave in any way, okay? It's a pseudo account kind of out there. All right, so here we go. We see Director SafeBoot. Okay, so we're kind of connecting the dots, and we're pretty sure this is the same guy, right? Because there could be two Dave Ackleys. In fact, there are, but anyway. So then we jump over to Spokane. Keeping in mind our Fort Myers and our Naples and all that stuff, we're looking for a Dave Ackley, and there's some in Florida, about 13 of them, to be specific. And we're looking around, and we say, okay, we got Naples, we got Fort Myers. Which is the real Dave Ackley, right? I mean, there's plenty of Dave Ackleys to choose from. And as it turns out, when I spoke to him after I did this, it turns out there's a Dave Ackley that lives really close to him. Another day, yeah, imagine that. All right, so we jump over to Facebook. We're not sure which is the real Dave Ackley, okay? Well, here's a Dave Ackley that has McAfee in his Facebook profile. Yeah, and I mentioned he's really proud he works for McAfee. Okay, so that might be the right one. You know, there are other Dave Ackleys, but you know, what the heck? We'll give that a shot. And sure enough, we look, and we got Dave Ackley, Estero, Florida. All right, well, where is Estero, Florida? Or Estera, excuse me. Right? It just so happens that Estera is in the Fort Myers, Naples kind of area. All right, so we're thinking this might be the one, especially since he has McAfee in his profile name, right? But we're learning some things about him as we go along. You know, first and foremost, if you can see his picture up there, he's on a motorcycle, right? With some chick on the back, right? So we go back and we look and we say, okay, this is probably him, Estero, the Estero, Florida guy, right? So here's his address, right? In the household, there's Dave, and then there's this Kimberly Ackley, Kimberly J. Ackley, right? Dave's a tourist. He's a tourist from South Florida. He's 39 years old. Yeah, the next contestant, right? So in Spokio, we look, we see Dave's birthday is in May of 1971, right? There's a picture of Dave's house. Yeah. If you think it's creepy now, just wait. So you know, let's see. There's 3 people in the house, 2 adults, 1 kid. The kid's between 0 and 3 years old. There's Dave, there's his wife, and there's some person, D. Ackley. Okay. Now, one word of caution: you can't take this stuff too literal. You got to be careful because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of this is kind of crowdsourced. So, but let's take a look at his Facebook profile. You notice, you know, he doesn't have his wall up there and photos and stuff, but he shows us who his friends are. And this is one of my beefs about Facebook is you're putting your security, your privacy in the hands of your friends. That's exactly what you're doing. So we go to the friends list and we can search through so we can see Chelsea, who I think is his mother, Kim something, actually, I can't read the middle name, but anyway. And then there's Lorraine, and then there's Veronica. I think these are 2 sisters, or Veronica's his sister, definitely. And Kim's his wife. So, but he's just got, I mean, he's got like, what, 70 friends, which is pretty low for Facebook. You know, I mean, seriously, yeah. They're, I mean, especially younger people, but he doesn't spend a lot of time up there, right? So, so we can just kind of scroll around on some of his friends, and let's just take a look at one of his friends, Chris, and see what kind of trouble we can make. So it turns out that Chris posts his, you know, his little messages, and he leaves them open to the world. As long as you have a Facebook ID, you don't have to be associated with Chris to see his wall, right? Well, why would we want to see Chris's wall? Well, he might have posted a message to Dave that might give us some hints on Dave's interests. And so we do a little quick search for Ackley, and it says, yeah, something, had a good night, let America, you know, whatever. So I realize you can't read that at all. But essentially, I think that was had to do with a motorcycle event, right? That he and his buddy Chris were talking about. So there's another friend of his, Gary, who does the same thing. You know, he allows people to see his wall. And Gary's pretty popular. He's got like 665 friends. Either that or he just friends everybody, right? So so here we go. This is a good one. This is a little conversation they're having about the football games, and they're talking about Brett Favre and the Jets, and so we kind of surmise from this that Dave is a New York Jets fan, right? So there's an attack vector right there, right? He's a Jets fan. You could probably, figure all that out. Yeah, here's a little note about going to Bike-toberfest. Has anybody ever heard of Bike-toberfest? It's kind of like an Oktoberfest on motorcycles, right? And there's one down in Florida, but there's also one in Helen, Georgia. And not only do we have this message about that he's going to that place, but we have it dated. So we know exactly when he was there. And it's pretty likely he may go this coming year, right? So this coming November, he might be headed to the same place. Yet another attack vector, we can send him an email, say, hey, come to Bike-toberfest, click on this link, blah, 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 right? Profit. So another friend, Josh, is kind of talking smack about football, and so Dave's, we're confirming that he's a big Jets fan. He's pretty fanatical about it, actually. But what's really cool is one of his other friends, Nancy, okay, and this is where like the people with sensitivities might want to leave the room. So Nancy posts her wall, and Nancy's actually doesn't have a whole lot of friends. She's like less than 70, but it just so happens when I did the search for the word athlete, that would get his wife also, and it seems that Nancy made a comment about some pictures that Kim posted on her wall, all right? So, called My Pride and Joy. Gee, I wonder what that means. These are pictures of his kids. So, through Janice, who, her Facebook is kind of wide open, we're able to get to these photos that Dave's wife posted for the kid, about the kids, right? And there's all kind of, all kind of kids. Turns out they have 2 kids, by the way. And we'll kind of hone in on one of those pictures in just a second here to give you a little bit of context with them. But essentially, as you can see, this is like her photo album, right? And you'll see in just a second. Okay, so yeah, and not only do we have pictures, we have comments, right? Yeah, Tanner and Callie. So at this point, in September of 2010, Tanner was 2 and Callie was 1. So we can extrapolate, ages and all that stuff, right?
If we were trying to guess her email password, I think we would have a good place to start.
Yeah. I'm gonna bet Callie, but you might bet Tanner. So like I said, not only do we have pictures, we have comments about the pictures, right? So there's all kind of sensitive information that may be in those comments, all right? So, but if you go to his wife's page, look, she's not even showing who her friends are. Her Facebook page is pretty locked down, right? We just looked at that photo album. Does this not strike you as odd, right? She's locked down, and yet we were able to look at all these pictures, right? So obviously, the limit of this is just your imagination, right? When I first did this demonstration, it was actually a little bit easier because Dave's mother's page, had the wall and all that, and she had so many comments back and forth with him. I mean, you could just, geez Louise. And I used to misphrase it as Dave's mother was wide open. And after some chuckles, I thought, oh, well, yeah, I guess maybe that wasn't the way to say that. But then he talked to her and got her to fix that, and it was before I made the video. So he said, oh, sorry about that, I'll call. I said, no, that's okay, I'll find another way, right? And so it's kind of proven to me that if you're out there and you have a Facebook profile, again, you're putting your privacy and your security in the hands of your friends, right? Pick your friends well. Okay. So, all right. So So a few more scary tools out there, and like I said, this is not meant to be a total comprehensive list, okay? Because that would probably take 3-4 hours to like go through and be meaningful. But a few of the good ones, and there's, yeah, okay, I got it on there. Creepy is pretty cool. There's a Linux version and a Windows version. Basically, you have to give it a Twitter account that you kind of sign in with, but then you go searching for someone, and if they have a Twitter account and they post little messages to Twitter, especially with their phone, and it geotags those messages, this will go out there and find any message that that person has tweeted that has geotagging, and even map it on Google Maps for you and timestamp it, and it will actually like show you, okay, this day this person was here, and then they were here, and then they were here, and so pretty aptly named, creepy, right? There's another utility, exit tool, used to read the geotagging data off of pictures. So, you know, your cell phone that you're taking a picture with and taking video, by default, it includes the geotag, right? Or at least mine did. And so anytime you post that picture, somebody gets a hold of that picture, they can have a timestamp geolocation data, right? I'm preaching to the choir. Everybody knows that, right? Okay, nod, please nod. And if you don't know how to disable that, you know, you might want to Google that some. TinEye is pretty cool. It's not really that mature yet, but because once again it's kind of crowdsourced. But you take a picture, you know, let's say you found a thumb drive and there was a picture on it. Not that I would suggest doing this on a Windows machine, but you plug it into your computer, and as you'll see in a little bit, but you plug it in and you submit that JPEG to this site, TinEye, and it will go out and scour the internet for where that picture came from, or where that picture might be, or where that picture might be referenced. It's pretty cool. Like I said, it's not really that mature yet, but you never know. Sometimes you hit on those things. Peer-to-peer sites, as everybody knows, there's just all kind of information out there. People sharing their My Documents and, you know, whatever. That's kind of old school. But IceRocket is another Twitter kind of scour. It scours Twitter. So does Tweets. Glassdoor and Career Bliss. These are websites out there. Yeah, these are websites out there that people go to complain about their jobs. All right. Yeah, plenty of sites out there to complain about your job, and so all kinds of information out there. You know, especially corporate. You know, oh, I hated that. You know, company picnic. It was so lame. Whatever. FB Pwn. Has anybody heard of this? It's pretty new. It's like last week, right? Pretty cool. It's a little utility to go out and scrape information from your friends on Facebook. Did I say that right? Is that close enough? Okay. Pretty cool to check out. And of course, Maltego. Maltego is like the Mac Daddy professional tool that really you use after you started gathering this information to kind of pull it all together and to kind of complete the picture, right? Because when you do this type of reconnaissance, you're really dealing with a pretty big volume of data. And doing the analytics on that and all that stuff is a bit onerous. But we're not actually going to go into Maltego because that's a whole, yeah, we could fill up 2 hours with that alone. So, I'm going to hand it over to Pat, and he's going to talk a little about phone-based internet recon, or phone-based recon, and a really cool tool that we've been working on. This is, you know, not really out there yet, but something we've been working on.
Thanks, Chris. Right, so how many folks in the room have done social engineering in the past and you know, attacked organizations via some type of a telephone attack vector. Cool, so a couple of us, awesome. So you guys are probably familiar with the concept of interactive voice response systems, right? IVRs. The idea, you call into an organization and you get this, press 1 for sales, press 2 to hear a duck quack, press 3 for blah, blah, blah. So you can actually gain a lot of information about an organization just by looking through their IVRs and also calling extensions within an organization, listening to people's voicemail greetings. So after hours, right, you could call into the company directory, get information about people that work there, etc. Transfer it over to an automated attendant, IVRs, etc. Find out what types of different divisions within the organization exist. Maybe you can transfer out of somebody's voicemail box if you're dropped into a voicemail, and based on the way that telephony works and PBXs work, sometimes when you transfer out of someone's voicemail, it actually rewrites the CP name, CP number. So you might actually have the ability to impersonate someone within the organization that way. And you can listen to people's greetings, right? People set their voicemail up to tell you when they're out of the office. This can give us real world attack scenarios. If I'm physically showing up to the office of a company, I'm going to say that I'm there to meet with somebody who's on vacation. And then while the front desk lady is trying to figure out what's going on, I'm going to tell her that I need to go to the restroom. And I have this terrible habit of getting lost every single time I go to the restroom within a company. So now that I'm internal to the organization, I can plug into the wall and walk around. So back in the day, I was mildly obsessed with BBSs and modems, etc. And war dialing was the cool thing, right? Telesweep, right? Telesweep for the win, PC Plus. Nowadays, there are all kinds of modern tools. So let's talk about some of the stuff that's out there now and talk about some of the stuff that's coming up, right? Chris and I were talking, we came up with this idea that we wanted to be able to attack these IVRs more efficiently. We wanted to be able to attack voicemail boxes and voicemail systems more efficiently. There's been some work done in this area. HD Moore has done some incredible work with Warbox. It's a fantastic tool. If you guys haven't seen it, I suggest checking it out. It's very neat. Takes advantage of IX2 trunks and voice over IP to make phone calls quickly, and efficiently, and cheaply. And it's very scalable. iWar does the same. There are all kinds of tools out there to do these types of things. But I personally, and guys, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, come up to me, tell me I'm a moron, I didn't find it, whatever the case may be. But I personally haven't really found anything that allows me to easily attack IVRs and get information from them. So I said, I want to create a tool that leverages some existing technology, uses VoIP so that I don't have to have a whole bunch of modems hanging around the house and a bunch of POTS lines installed, right? And I want to make it so easy that anyone can use it, right? This is not meant to be a highly technical tool. This is meant to be a point-and-click driven type tool ultimately. And the primary goals, which we're going to go into a little more detail, are brute forcing of voicemail box passwords, reverse brute forcing of voicemail box passwords, brute forcing and data gathering from integrated voice response systems, and then also to create a very usable phishing engine. So let's take a step back. Let me show you a quick demo of Warbox. This is not my tool. Creds go to HD Moore for this. If he's, I don't know if he's in the crowd, but if he is, thank you, HD. I love this tool. So right now what I'm doing is I'm starting Warbox, and Warbox starts this little Rails server, and then I connect to it. It listens on localhost port 7777, and default username, password, etc. Right? Brief introduction. This is the page where we schedule jobs. Here's the results page. Right now I have no completed jobs. The analysis page, which we'll go into more detail here. And then the providers, this is where you define your VoIP providers. And this is just some info about the version, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attack a phone number. Florida is a two-party consent state, so I have to attack myself. I have to censor my phone number. So we punch some information in here. Down here at the bottom, I'm telling it what range to spoof. So it's going to pick a random number in that 561-254 range and spoof the calling party number. And then it's going to go ahead and call all of these telephone systems. And it will use as many trunks as I define. You can see the maximum number of outgoing lines I have set at 10 because that's all I'm paying for. But I could easily scale that up to 100 if I had the bandwidth, right? So I make these calls. Every single one of the calls picks up. I picked up, I said hello, hello, hello a bunch of times. And then I go ahead and analyze it. This takes about a minute in the real world. And at the end of the day, what you end up with is some pretty cool analysis of what the actual telephone conversation looks like. This is cool. This is a fingerprint of my phone call that I just had. That's pretty awesome. H.G. Moore is the first person I know who did this with a tool. This is a little bit more information about the audio that was captured during the call. And I'm going to talk a little bit in a minute about why that's important. So, with this voicemail box, the way that I want to achieve this, right, is I want to call into a voicemail box, right? I want to get to the spot in the call where the voicemail box prompts me for a password. And I want to try one, 0000. And I want to listen to the response. I want to analyze the response. And what I'm going to end up with is something that looks like this, right? And this is, blatant thievery from HD's tool, right? So, I've got attempt number 1. That's probably a login failure. I have to assume that I'm going to fail more times than I'm going to succeed, right? If there's 4 digits, they're all numbers. There's 10,000 possible combinations. So 9,999 times I'm going to fail. Once I'm going to succeed, right? There are some things I can do to maybe make my chances a little bit better. So I'm going to look at all of these, signatures, thumbprints, if you will, right, of failed attempts. And eventually I'm going to see one that's different. And I can make a pretty good assumption that if I see one out of 9,000 that's different, that one probably succeeded. So I don't even need to know what a successful login looks like. I just have to know what unsuccessful logins look like. So that's pretty cool. That's the idea for attacking one voicemail box, right? Now, what are some potential issues here? Account lockout, right? 5 tries, I get locked out. The thumbprint's going to change. Hopefully, organizations have that implemented. But here it is, 10 years later, and we're still seeing SQL injection, attacks. We've been talking about that for, you're trusting your users to do your input validation for you? Come on. So people still do dumb things. And, excessive attempts from the same number, maybe some type of a PBX firewall, maybe speed, but that's addressed by using VoIP providers that are scalable, that I can, lease 1,000 lines for a penny a minute, and then just, start making a bunch of calls until I saturate their inbound trunk. Let's see. So, what if I have what if I have an organization that has 10,000 phone sets? What if I pick one password, 1111, and try it against 10,000 devices? What's the likelihood that one of those attempts is going to succeed? Probably pretty good. So we can use the same tool and the same approach to do revert brute forcing of voicemail passwords. Another piece of the tool that I would love to integrate is a phishing engine, right? So, I don't know how many of you guys have gotten text messages, right? You receive text messages, hey, click this URL and go here, maybe your phone will get pwned. Nobody's gotten one of those. I hope nobody's clicked on it. This is not about text messaging. This is about something that will call you and dump you into a voice loop that I own and say, hey, this is your organization's InfoSec department. We're doing a voicemail password survey. Please enter your extension. Please enter your password. Take the DTMF response from the user and dump it into a database. You can also prompt for other things if you're trying to be evil. Imagination's the limit, right? And one of the coolest things that I would like this tool to be able to do, I know we're running out of time, so I'm kind of trying to get through this quick. One of the coolest things that I would like this tool to be able to do is to get information out of IVRs, right? So we've all called into that company and they've asked us for a 6-digit or a 7-digit account number. Well, if I'm calling an insurance company and they're asking me for a 7-digit account number, and that insurance company has 200,000 customers, and they've got this 7-digit account number in place. So 200,000 out of those, possible 10 million account numbers are going to be valid. Reduces the entropy quite a bit. If I have enough lines calling, spoofing the calling party number, and trying to dial into that IVR, presumably they also have a failure message, right? We're sorry, the account number that you've entered is invalid. Please try again, right? So I'd do that, rinse and repeat, and let this thing crank for a week or two. I'm probably going to end up with some valid account numbers. Those account numbers can then be used in additional social engineering attacks, right? So I can call the company. Now I'm implicitly trusted because I have a legit account number, and I might be able to get some good information from the company. So, like Chris said, this is something that is in development right now, and if I'm stepping on anybody's toes, please let me know. If you guys know of any tools that do this already, please let me know. Thanks for your time. I'll turn it back over to Chris.
Thanks, Pat. what do we got, like 2 minutes or something crazy like that? Oh, 5. Ooh, we can do a lot. All right. Okay, so just a quick shout out to another Found Center consultant, Brad Antonowitz. If you haven't heard about Proxbrute, go out to Found Center's website, take a look at it. It's cool stuff. It's basically taking a Proxmark 3 device that you use to clone HID cards, to clone the RFID cards, and kind of taking it to the next level. Being able to not only clone one card, but then flip it around, and when you're replaying it, you can replay that card, but you can also replay other cards. All right? The scenario being, you clone the receptionist's card, and so you can get in the door, but the receptionist doesn't have access to the data center. You want to get to the data center without cloning another card. You turn on Proxbrute, and it decrements the employee ID portion of the RFID signature until it gets down to one that's usable and the door opens, right? Yeah, it's not super mature. It's, it works, it's there, and it's a really good test of your physical security incident response. Because you can imagine, it basically submits an ID per second. So you can imagine you're standing here at the data center door with this thing, and it's going beep, beep, beep. And if someone's watching a monitor, they're seeing failed attempt, failed attempt, failed attempt, right? So it's a good test of that, right? All right, really quickly, just kind of a broad brush of other tools out there. USB CD drops, right? Old school, we all do it. Some of the really cool tools out there to Google around on is Katana. Katana's, I think they call it a multi-pass, is that what it is? But essentially, a USB drive that comes up with a boot menu, and you can boot into Backtrack, you can boot into, it's got like 8 or 9 different distributions. The guy that created it also made a little function, I think it's called Forge, that you can create your own distributions and kind of put them into your boot menu, okay? 2 of the choices in Katana, one is called Off-Crack, right? Y'all remember old Off-Crack before the Off guys kind of, whatever they did, sold out? Did I say that out loud? Sorry. Bought in. Yeah, they bought in. Yeah, whatever they did. But anyway, yeah, Off-Crack is still alive and well. And it's pretty damn good. Just even with something that will fit on a thumb drive, a lot of passwords crack really quickly. Maybe hit us up at lunch or something. I can show you a demo, but it's pretty scary. One thing that we're working on right now is this thing we call Home Drive. Because storage has gotten so much smaller, so much cheaper, and so widely available, basically I can take a USB drive that's the size of my wallet, that's 1.5 terabytes of storage, right? So the first word that comes to my mind when someone gives me 1.5 terabytes of storage is rainbow. Right? And that's the word that should come to your mind, rainbows. And I'm not talking about the pretty ones, right? Yeah, so we're actually kind of working on, and you guys are getting a little tickler for this. If you show up at I don't know, some other security conferences, you may hear more about this. Right now it's named Home Drive, but we'll see what we come up with. Is to kind of take the Katana concept and the Conboot concepts to the next level, and make it industrial strength kind of thing. Some other media is, are you guys familiar with Teensy? Anybody know about Teensy? It's these little programmable human interface devices. Iron Geek did a lot of work with that, Adrian Crenshaw. In fact, came up with a good little acronym, programmable HID USB keystroke gauntlet. All right. So anyway, we're pretty much out of time, so I'm going to have to skip these demos. But like I said, hit us up at lunch or something, and I can show you some fun stuff. And I do want to make a shout out to Dave Kennedy. And I mean, no talk on social engineering tools would be complete if you didn't talk about the social engineering toolkit. At GrrCON, he's coming out with version 2.1. This is the, you know, the Metasploit of social engineering. It's push button. He's even got a web interface to it now. I mean, it is Mac Daddy. I highly recommend it, and it's all free. You know, Dave is just offering this to the community. When you go back to your organizations, look up Set, download it, you know, pop it on a, I mean, it comes with Backtrack, so, you know, go to your Backtrack VM and just run Set and do the update, and, you know, it's really cool stuff. This is the kind of stuff that you can do on your own inside your organization before you hire somebody like us to come in, right? So that you can maybe be a little more prepared than a lot of our customers when we come in and do our little testing. Because I mean, this is just it's awesome stuff, and it just keeps getting better. You know, Dave, they kid Dave about pushing out updates like every 30 minutes, but it does. It seems like every time you turn around, he's got a new feature in Set. He's got a new update. And it's like you need a cron job just to go out and check for updates, you know, every hour for this guy. So, so we don't have more time, although another kitty cat there, our kitty, I like that, cyber kitty. All right, and I believe that's all we have time for. Yes, all right, thank you for your attention.